There are moments in life when desire speaks, not with words, but with a silence so charged it trembles between heaven and earth. It is not mere flesh calling to flesh, but soul echoing to soul through the veil of mystery. And sometimes what looks like temptation is actually revelation, a divine whisper cloaked in longing, asking not what do you want, but who are you becoming? She wants you. But what does that mean in the language of eternity? In this sacred theater of existence, nothing is random. The ache you feel, the pull you sense, the fire in your blood, could it be more than lust? Could it be the universe unfolding a lesson, a mirror, a test, or perhaps an invitation? Every glance, every touch, every silence between two people is part of the great choreography of the divine. And when you see it rightly, you realize even passion has a purpose in the hands of the eternal. There is a moment, a holy moment, when you feel her eyes on you and something ancient stirs. It's not just attraction, it's not merely lust. It is a stirring beneath the surface, deeper than touch, older than time. And if you're not careful, you will mistake the sacred for the sensual and miss the revelation that desire brings. Because desire, in its purest form, is not just about bodies reaching for each other. It's about souls trying to remember something they once knew, something heaven wrote into the blueprints of time before either of you took your first breath. When a woman desires you, truly desires you, she's not just reaching out for your skin, she's responding to something beyond logic, beyond sight, beyond form. She's responding to the voice of your essence, that inner echo of who you are becoming in the eyes of God. But here's the danger. Most men never hear that echo. They stop at the surface. They see the curves, the invitation, the passion, and they rush in like fools to a fire they don't understand. But the fire wasn't sent to burn you. It was sent to refine you. It wasn't meant to feed your ego. It was meant to test your vision. Will you see her as a conquest, or will you discern her as a divine mirror? Because desire is never random. It's a language, and heaven speaks in metaphors. Just like God used a burning bush to get Moses' attention, sometimes he uses a woman's desire to awaken you, not just to her, but to you. To the man you've forgotten, to the purpose you've abandoned, to the sacred masculinity you've buried beneath performance, shame, and fear. And sometimes when a woman wants you, it's not even about you. It's about what's missing in her. And God is using you as a reflection of what she's seeking in Him. But if you fall into her hunger without first asking, Lord, what is this moment for? You may feed her flesh while starving her soul. You may awaken longings you're not anointed to steward. You may walk into a door you were meant to pray over, not pass through. There is a prophetic weight to desire, and when you ignore it, when you trivialize it, you don't just miss the woman, you miss the message. Because when God allows someone to be drawn to you, there is always a reason. Sometimes it's a confirmation. Sometimes it's a temptation. But every time it's a lesson, and the wise man pauses. The wise man discerns. The wise man listens for the spirit before he listens to the body. Because a woman's body may invite you, but it's her spirit that will reveal if she's your assignment or your downfall. The wrong woman at the wrong time with the right chemistry can destroy a destiny faster than any demon. But the right woman with divine timing and spiritual clarity can unlock your next chapter. So I ask you, when she wants you, do you want her back with your soul or only with your flesh? Do you see her as a portal or a possession? Are you willing to let her desire refine you before it defines you? Because every act of desire is either a rehearsal for covenant or a detour into confusion. And you are not called to confusion, you are called to clarity, to walk as a man who sees through the veil, a man who hears heaven even in the whisper of want, a man who does not lose himself when another soul is drawn to his flame, and maybe, just maybe, her wanting you is not the point. Maybe it's heaven watching you, watching how you handle the fire, watching how you respond to her pull, watching if you are ready, not just for her, but for who you are destined to become. Because in the end, this isn't about sex. It's about stewardship. And if you fail to steward desire, you will never be trusted with destiny. So when she wants you, don't just ask, how do I respond? Ask instead, what is God revealing in this? Because sometimes desire is not an invitation to enter her. It's an invitation to encounter him. You can lie beside someone and still feel utterly alone. You can share breath, share skin, share nights full of fire and mornings of quiet, and yet never truly touch the soul that lies just beneath their surface. Because intimacy, real intimacy, is not born in the act. It is born in alignment, spiritual, emotional, and divine. We live in a world obsessed with connection, but starving for communion. We chase chemistry and call it compatibility. We confuse access with closeness. And we celebrate temporary pleasure even when it leaves us emptier than before. But there's a deeper wisdom and ancient truth that whispers through the silence after the desire fades. If it didn't touch your soul, it didn't really touch you. Intimacy without alignment is an illusion. It feels like warmth in the moment, but it leaves you cold in the aftermath. And that's because what your body craves is not always what your spirit needs. You were not created to be a consumer of moments. You were created to be a steward of covenant. There are people God will allow into your life as a test, not of your ability to attract them, but of your ability to handle them. And sometimes the greatest temptation is not the sin itself, but the speed, the rush to enter something before it has been revealed for what it truly is. The hunger to feel desired without first discerning if the connection is divine. You must ask yourself, what am I building with this person? A memory or a mission? You see, the flesh will always push you toward urgency, but the spirit moves in order. There is a divine sequence to every relationship heaven ordains. First comes revelation of who they are and who you are in the presence of them. Then comes alignment, where your vision, values, and purpose begin to speak the same language. And only then, only in God's time, does the sacred permission of intimacy arrive. But if you reverse the order, if you give your body before you've shared your burdens, if you offer access before you establish intention, you risk building on sand what was meant to be carved from stone. And the storm will come. It always does. And what was forged in lust will not survive the fire. Don't be deceived by chemistry. Chemistry is not confirmation. Just because your bodies agree doesn't mean your spirits do. There are people who will ignite your desires but suffocate your destiny. There are people who will touch your skin while trampling your soul. And if you are not anchored in truth, you will confuse being chosen for a night with being called for a lifetime. Even the enemy can send someone who feels like peace to destroy your purpose. That's why discernment must speak louder than desire, because a counterfeit will always offer you closeness without covenant, pleasure without purpose, ecstasy without elevation. But God's design is deeper, holier, more costly, and infinitely more fulfilling. And for those who've already crossed this line, who've shared sacred parts of yourself in unguarded moments, hear this: you are not disqualified. Grace restores, redemption rewrites, but this time walk differently. This time lead with the spirit, not the body. This time ask the harder questions before you open the deepest doors. Because if your soul isn't safe in their presence, your body has no business lying in their arms. You deserve more than touch. You were made for truth. You deserve more than company. You were destined for covenant. And when you align with someone in spirit, the physical connection becomes a reflection of something far greater, a glimpse of God's eternal design, written on two lives that chose to walk as one. This is not about repression. It's about reverence. It's about treating desire not as a god to obey, but a signal to interpret. And when intimacy finally flows from alignment, when your heart, your soul, and your spirit are tethered to another under heaven's gaze, then and only then will the physical become prophetic. So guard what is sacred, test what is tempting, and wait for what is holy. Because the one who touches your body without first aligning with your soul is not awakening your destiny. They're interrupting it. She smiles, she laughs, she lingers just a second longer than expected. And suddenly something shifts inside of you. It's subtle but powerful, a quiet awakening, a pull, a question rising from the deep. What is she saying without words? Attraction is not just about the visible. It's about the invisible conversation beneath the surface, the unspoken language of souls. And if you're only listening with your eyes, you'll miss what heaven is trying to reveal through her presence. Because attraction is a language, not a transaction. And like all sacred languages, it requires discernment, just as God spoke to Elijah not in the fire, not in the earthquake, but in the still small voice. So too does divine communication often hide in subtle places, in a glance, in a silence, in the space between two people trying to make sense of what they're feeling. But here's the danger: most people react before they reflect. They rush toward the feeling without interpreting the meaning. They assume the pull is permission. They treat chemistry like confirmation. And in doing so, they miss the deeper message. Not every attraction is romantic. Not every connection is meant to be pursued. Some women are drawn to your strength because they are searching for safety. Some are attracted to your light because they are fighting through their own darkness. Some are intrigued by your presence, not because of who you are, but because of who they are becoming. And if you misread it, if you make her journey about your gratification, you turn a divine appointment into a distraction. You must learn to listen beneath the surface. When she compliments you, is it a flirtation or an affirmation? When she opens up, is it vulnerability seeking understanding or seduction seeking validation? When she wants you, is it God aligning your paths or the enemy testing your restraint? Attraction is a test, a mirror, a message. Sometimes it's a reflection of your readiness. Sometimes it's a revelation of your weakness. But always, always, it carries a divine instruction. If you have the ears to hear. Think of Joseph in Egypt. He was not just a man of vision. He was a man of restraint. Potiphar's wife desired him. She didn't just want to touch him. She wanted to claim him. But Joseph understood something most men ignoring. Just because someone wants you doesn't mean they're from God. And just because your desire doesn't mean you're free to receive it. He fled from what others would have fantasized about. because he had clarity. He heard something higher than her voice. He discerned something deeper than her beauty. He didn't just see her. He saw through her. That's what you must learn to see through, to listen with your spirit, to hear what heaven is saying through the earthly moment. Because the physical is fleeting, but the spiritual leaves marks that last for years. Some of you are in situations right now where you feel drawn but uneasy. The chemistry is electric, but something in your soul feels off. That tension you feel, it's not confusion, it's caution. It's the Holy Spirit whispering, this moment has meaning. Don't move until you understand it. It takes maturity to pause. It takes spiritual sensitivity to ask, why am I feeling this way? What is this woman's role in my life? Is this desire divine alignment or dangerous distraction? And sometimes the answer will surprise you. Sometimes the one you're drawn to isn't your partner. They're your teacher. Sometimes they are the mirror God uses to show you where your boundaries still leak, where your identity still wavers, where your desire still outruns your wisdom. And other times, rare holy times, the attraction is confirmation. It's heaven's way of guiding two people toward a deeper mission. But even then, it is not meant to be rushed. God never moves in panic. Divine connections unfold in rhythm, not chaos. In peace, not pressure. So learn to listen. Listen when your spirit stirs, even if your mind doesn't yet understand. Listen when something about her feels familiar, even if you've never met. Listen when your peace feels fragile, even if your desire feels strong. Because when God speaks through attraction, He's not calling you to satisfy an urge, He's calling you to steward a revelation. And if you listen well, if you wait, if you watch, if you lean into the meaning instead of the moment, you will hear something few ever do. You'll hear the voice behind the veil. You'll hear heaven saying, this is more than want. It's a window. Handle it wisely, for what you're feeling might just be your future trying to whisper its name. You were never meant to be ruled by your urges. You were created to walk in authority, kingdom authority, the kind that doesn't bow to every invitation, no matter how beautiful, how tempting, how magnetic. Because true masculinity isn't measured by how many women want you, but by how many desires you have mastered. A man without purpose is vulnerable to anything that looks like love but isn't. And in a world where passion is cheap and access is instant, the real test is not whether you can attract her, but whether you can protect both her and your calling when the moment gets loud and the body gets weak. There is a sacred strength in restraint, a holy power in patience. When you know who you are, when your identity is rooted not in what you can get, but in what you were sent to become, then you stop chasing moments and start walking in mission. Your masculinity must be anchored in purpose, not pleasure, because pleasure without purpose is poison. It tastes sweet going down, but it rots your spirit in silence. It will let you touch her skin, but it'll rob you of your peace. It will give you a temporary high and then ask for your destiny as payment. That's why some of you have felt hollow after moments that were supposed to feel victorious. You thought being desired would heal you. You thought being wanted would prove something. But instead of feeling crowned, you felt crushed. That's not because you're weak. It's because you're chosen. And the chosen can't drink from every cup. The chosen can't enter every door. The chosen are called to more. You see, there's a war for your seed, for your direction, for your authority. And when the enemy can't destroy you with fear, he'll try to distract you with pleasure. He'll dress it in beauty, wrap it in validation, and whisper, "You deserve this." But the serpent always hisses before it strikes. And if you're not anchored, you'll mislabel a setup as a blessing. Even the garden had temptation. But you were never meant to live from your senses alone. You were designed to lead from the spirit. Your masculinity is not your ability to dominate. It's your ability to discern, to cover, to carry, to consecrate what the world wants to corrupt. And that starts with your own body. Let's talk real. If you can't say no to yourself, how can you say yes to God? If you can't control your cravings, how will you steward a covenant? How will you protect the heart of a woman if your hands are driven by lust instead of love? She may want you, but can she trust you? Can heaven trust you? This is not about shame. It's about stewardship. The anointing on your life cannot coexist with ungoverned desire. There is too much at stake. There are assignments connected to your obedience, souls that will never be reached if you keep sacrificing your purpose at the altar of pleasure. You don't have time to keep getting derailed by women who were never your wife, never your help, never your destiny. You don't have time to keep playing with fire and praying you don't get burned. You were not created to survive. You were sent to build, to lead, to war for truth. And the battlefield doesn't start in the world. It starts in your heart. This is where sons become kings, right here. In this choice, will you live from your flesh or from your calling? When David saw Bathsheba, his power gave him access. But access without discipline became destruction. One moment of pleasure led to a legacy of pain. But Samson, his fall didn't start with Delilah. It started when he stopped listening to his purpose. You see, it's not about whether you feel strong. It's about whether you live submitted. Because submission brings covering. It brings clarity. It brings the kind of strength that doesn't just conquer rooms, but builds legacies. So if she wants you, what are you going to do with that desire? Will you be a man led by the wind of impulse or by the breath of God? Will you be seduced by every spark, or will you wait for the fire that refines? Because when your masculinity is anchored in purpose, you don't chase pleasure. You attract presence. And when the presence of God walks with you, every desire bows in reverence. Every impulse surrenders to discipline. Every temptation is exposed for what it eyes, a counterfeit to keep you from your crown. You are not just a man, you are a vessel, and your purpose is too sacred to be forfeited for something that fades by morning. There is a time for everything under the heavens, a time to speak, and a time to remain silent, a time to embrace, and a time to refrain. And there is also a time to wait. But oh, how heavy that waiting can feel when desire is burning, when attraction is strong, when opportunity seems near. You wonder if the moment is now, if this connection must be seized before it slips away. But divine timing does not panic. It is not anxious. It never rushes. Heaven moves in rhythm, not restlessness. You must understand, not every open door is the right one, and not every spark is meant to be ignited immediately. Some fires are holy, others are premature, dangerous, untamed. And if you light what God has not yet permitted, you risk destroying what was meant to be sacred. Desire is a powerful force, but timing is what makes it holy. Passion is beautiful when it bows to divine order. Even love without timing can become a burden instead of a blessing. So when you feel drawn, when the connection feels magnetic, when her eyes tell you something her lips have not yet spoken, pause. Ask yourself, is this the moment or just a glimpse? Is this the fulfillment or just the preview? There is a sacred tension in waiting. And it's not because God is cruel, it's because He is precise. He is preparing both of you, shaping your hearts, fortifying your character, aligning your callings. He is not just bringing two people together, He's writing a legacy. He's building a union that will carry weight in the spirit. And that kind of work takes time. Abraham waited. Joseph waited. David was anointed and still had to wait years before the throne. Even Jesus did not begin his ministry until the appointed hour. The anointing was already there, but the moment had to be right. So what makes you think you must rush into something just because it feels good? Some of the most painful detours in life come from people who refuse to wait. They touched what was meant to be approached in reverence. They stepped into what looked ready, but was not yet complete. They tried to force what God had only begun to form. And the aftermath, confusion, brokenness, delay, not because God changed His mind, but because they didn't trust His timing. Divine timing transforms desire into destiny. And when God says wait, He's not withholding, He's protecting you from unnecessary pain, protecting her from wounds that could have been avoided, protecting the future He's crafted with such detail that even the stars move in obedience to His will. But waiting is not passive. It's active obedience. It's preparation. It's becoming the man who can carry the weight of what you're asking for. It's refining your discipline, sharpening your discernment, and aligning your intentions with heaven's. Because if you can't wait with purity, you won't be able to lead with purpose. She may be drawn to you. You may sense the pull, feel the fire, hear the whisper of what could be. But the question is not, does she want me? The real question is, am I ready to receive her the way God intended? Are you prepared to honor her spirit, not just her beauty? To cover her heart, not just touch her body. To guard what's growing between you instead of rushing to consume it. Because divine timing isn't just about you being ready, it's about you being aligned. It's about her healing from things you can't see. It's about your calling reaching the next level. It's about the spiritual maturity required to sustain what God is about to entrust to you. And if you force it before the appointed time, it won't last. But if you wait, if you trust, if you listen, when that moment finally arrives, it won't just be desire. It will be destiny fulfilled, and you'll know it. You'll feel the peace that surpasses understanding. You'll feel the confirmation that doesn't come from flesh but from spirit. The room won't shake, but your soul will stand still in certainty. No fear, no striving, just clarity. And in that moment, you'll thank God for every second you waited. So I speak to the restlessness in you, to the age, to the impatience, to the temptation to rush into something just because the moment feels right. Do not settle for the thrill of now at the expense of the eternal. Let patience finish its work, because when timing and truth finally meet, what once felt like a delay will reveal itself as divine design, and your destiny will no longer be a longing, it will be a living promise.